2, 1. All right. Well, this is Monday, February the 1st, and this is the meeting of the Metro Council's Planning, Zoning, and Historical Committee. I am Vice Chair Brett Withers, and I'm filling in for our Chair Murphy, who had an appointment and hopes to join us as soon as she can. And so I'm wondering if Mr. Cooper is on, if Attorney Cooper is on. If
yes, I'm here.
Great, because I will rely upon your assistance with recording the votes, if that's okay.
Hannah Zeitlin is on here, and she's actually recording the votes on this one.
Well, I know that we're in good hands with Hannah, so thank you. So if I could call on one of the members of the committee to read the motion about the circumstances under which we're meeting, if could read that motion, and then Hannah, would it be acceptable if you could then do a roll call vote of that motion and use that as the attendance roster as well?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Would someone on the committee like to read our motion for us? Is that Councilmember Parker?
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair Withers. I'll move that pursuant to Governor Lee's Executive Order number 71 regarding electronic meetings, I make a motion that this committee meeting agenda constitutes essential business of the Metropolitan Council, and the meeting electronically is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans in light of the COVID-19 outbreak.
Second.
All righty, fantastic. Hannah, would you mind going down the roll call vote for that?
Sure. Councilmember Allen?
Here.
Benedict?
Aye.
Bradford? Bradford?
Present.
Cash?
Aye.
Evans?
Aye.
Gamble?
Aye.
Hager?
Aye.
Hall? Hall? Murphy? O'Connell? O'Connell?
O'Connell is here.
Parker?
Aye.
Rutherford?
Aye.
Stiles?
Aye.
Toombs?
Aye.
Van Rees? Van Rees? Welch?
Aye.
Withers?
Hey. Okay, well, fantastic. Well, if folks could help me keep an eye on
Do you want the count as
ahead.
well?
Yes, please.
The count was 14-0.
Thank you. I thought I had seen Councilmember Van Rees on previously, so maybe she had to step off and will rejoin us. And I'll ask others to help me keep an eye out on any of our colleagues who may join us as well. Matthew Wilkinson did send out an updated agenda this morning, and I hope that I have the correct one. But you should have that in your email. We have, by my count, 12 items on our agenda total, which includes the resolution that we just read. And what I would like to do is to talk through that really quickly and see how much of that we can keep on the consent agenda, and that will limit our discussion to items that really require discussion. But so the items that I believe that we would have on consent are resolutions RS 2021-735 by Councilmember Toombs and others, which declare surplus property. That one would be on consent. Item number 3, resolution RS 2021-750 by Councilmember Young and others, which pertains to a complete street project on Gallatin in District 10. That would be on consent. And I'll read this full captions when we go through it. I'm just trying to see if anything needs to be stricken. Item number 4, bills on second reading. BL 2020-556 by Taylor and Councilmember Taylor and others, which is a street renaming for 44th Avenue North to Community Court that is on consent. Item number, I think next would be item number 7, which is BL 2021-614 by Councilmember Toombs and others, which is for temporary easements for River Drive stormwater project. That one would be on consent. Item number 8, Bill 2021-615 by Councilmember Murphy and others, which is the sanitary sewer main project on Nolensville Road in Williamson County. That one would be on consent. Item number 9, BL 2021-616 by Councilmembers Gamble, Murphy, and others, which is a sewer project on Brick Church Lane, would be on consent. Is Councilmember Pulley with us by any chance? Has he been able to join us? The reason why I ask is that he's got an item which is on our agenda where he has an amendment, but also a deferral request. And if he were present, or perhaps if he joins us, if he's simply wanting to defer it, I'm comfortable moving it to a deferral for consent, but I don't have him present. So I'll move that one to the heel, I guess. And those are the items that I have on consent that do not have amendments or substitutes. Did anyone have any questions about any of those items that I read?
Yes, Vice Chairs, Councilmember Gamble, I need to ask that 616 be deferred indefinitely, so it needs to come off consent.
Okay, well, perhaps, thank you for that, Councilmember Gamble. Perhaps what we can do as part of our consent agenda is just reflect that that one will be moved for an indefinite deferral for now.
That's good.
Are there any other items that I read that might need to be pulled off of consent? Okay, so hearing none, I will, if that's okay, I will go through that consent agenda a little bit more formally. And then there are just a couple of items remaining that have amendments or substitutes that I think we might want to discuss. And so then we can take those up separately. But so those would be, so item number 2, resolution, this is the consent agenda, resolution RS 2021-735. Sponsors are Toombs and others, which declare surplus and approves the disposition of certain parcels of real property. Item number 3, resolution 2021-750 by Councilmember Young and others, approves an amendment to an agreement for the acceptance of work in connection with the construction of a complete street project on Gallatin Pike from Altaloma Road to Liberty Lane. Item number 4, Bill BL 2020-556 by Councilmember Taylor and others, renames a portion of Clover Street off 44th Avenue North to Community Court. Item number 7, BL 2021-614 by Councilmember Toombs and others, accepts permanent and temporary easements for the River Drive Stormwater Improvement Project for 4 properties located on River Drive. Item number 8, BL 2021-615 by Councilmember Murphy and Nash, accepts new sanitary sewer mains, sanitary sewer manholes, and easements for 3 properties located at 7150 and 7154 Nolensville Road and Nolensville Road unnumbered in Williamson County. Item number 9, BL 2021-616 by Councilmember Gamble and others, abandons existing public water main and easements and accepts new water and sanitary sewer mains, fire hydrant assemblies, sanitary sewer manholes, pressure reducing valve and easements for property located at Brick Church Lane unnumbered, also known as Heartland North Phase 1. And the motion on that one specifically would be for an indefinite deferral at the request of Councilmember Gamble. And those are all of the items that I have on the consent agenda. Does anyone have any objections to, well, is there a motion to move the consent agenda first?
So moved. This is Councilman Cash.
Thank you so much. Is there a second?
Councilman Bradford seconds.
Thank you so much. Are there any hands that folks would like to raise in objection or questions to adopting the consent agenda? Give everyone a moment.
Vice Chair Withers, this is Councilmember Van Rees, had some technical difficulties, so I moved to phone. Just wanted to let you know I was present. I have no questions regarding the consent agenda.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, Councilmember Van Rees. All right. With that, I will call on Hannah to, I guess, read off the names of everyone on the list who is in favor, unless anyone has any objections, which I don't believe I saw.
Would you like me to just read the names, or do you want to take like a voice vote and then I read the names, or would you like me to do a traditional roll call vote?
Let's just do a voice vote if that's okay then, and then we can read the names. I think that might work. So all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no.
Aye.
Any opposed? Just second, double checking. Okay. All right, Hannah, I will let you do your thing.
All right. Members in favor: Councilmember Allen, Benedict, Bradford, Cash, Evans, Gamble, Hager, O'Connell, Parker, Rutherford, Stiles, Toombs, Van Rees, Welch, and Withers.
All right, thank you so much for that. Next, we will move to items that were not on, and I believe Councilmember Welch is on.
I am.
Your item number, which is item number 5 on our agenda, BL 2020-573, changes from RS5 to R6A zoning for property located at 340 Peachtree Street, approximately 350 feet west of Wixon Avenue. The notes that I have on our agenda is that the public hearing was held on January the 5th, and second reading was deferred to February 2nd, which is today. Do you have any? Do you have a motion that you would like us to consider on this bill at this time?
Yes, I would like to move to approve with a brief explanation.
Okay, I will second that motion, and if you would like to go ahead with your explanation.
Thank you. There was some confusion about this rezone, and I worked very closely with the developer to come up with a design, excuse me, to come up with a design that is in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. And since our last council meeting, we've had 2 community meetings and gotten 100% assent on passing this rezoning. So I renew my motion to approve.
Great. Is there any discussion on that? Don't believe I see any hands on it. All right. If we could get, I guess in this case, again, a voice vote of all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? No. Okay. Hannah, would you like to read off those names for us again, please?
Voting in favor: Councilmembers Allen, Benedict, Bradford, Cash, Evans, Gamble, Hager, O'Connell, Parker, Rutherford, Stiles, Toombs, Van Rees, Welch, and Withers. That's 15 in favor, 0 against.
Terrific. Thank you. Our next item on our agenda is item number 6. This is BL 2021-593. The sponsors are Councilmembers Lee, Hauser, Taylor, and Stiles. This restricts construction noise between the hours of 6 p.m. and 8 a.m. on weekdays and between the hours of 7 p.m. and 9 a.m. on weekends. Councilmember Lee had let me know that she has a scheduling conflict today, but wanted this item to still be considered with a substitute. And so I'm wondering if one of the co-sponsors on this bill would like to move the substitute. Those would be Councilmember Hauser, Taylor, or Stiles. If not, I can move it, but just wanted to give that option to the co-sponsors.
I'm not on the committee. If you could please move it for us. Thank you. Councilmember.
Okay. I will go ahead and move the substitute. And Hannah or others, would you mind explaining for us what the? Well, I'll move the substitute. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Hannah, would you or others be able to explain to the committee what the substitute does?
Yes. This is Hannah Zeitlin. So the bill as drafted would reduce or would limit the hours that noise emitted from a construction site can exceed 70 decibels. I guess the bill as drafted restricts the hours where this noise limitation occurs from 6 p.m. to 8 a.m. on weekdays and 7 p.m. to 9 a.m. on weekends. The substitute would make that 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. every day of the week.
Great, thank you, Hannah. And I do see a couple of hands raised. So I will start with Councilmember Bradford, and then I also see Councilmember Cash's hand raised and Councilmember O'Connell. So I'll begin with Councilmember Bradford.
Thank you for recognizing me, Vice Chair. My question is if someone, or whether someone's signed on to the bill or Hannah could explain how this bill is different from the bill we just passed, that limited noise. Someone could explain that while we're talking about this again?
Hannah, would you be able to answer that question for Councilmember Bradford and the committee?
Yes, absolutely. So again, this is Hannah Zeitlin. So the past ordinance that was adopted, BL 2020-300, it was adopted on December 15th, 2020. It limited noise between the hours of 8 p.m. and 6 a.m. between the months of June, July, and August. And then the rest of the year, the noise limitation is 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. So this basically it lengthens the time that the construction noise limitations are in effect.
Okay, and I know with the previous bill, there's a lot of buy-in and input from the different stakeholders who would be impacted, like construction and workers. Has any of that been done on this bill as well? Do we know?
Vice Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Sorry, Councilmember Stiles, and I'm one of the sponsors, so I wanted to,
yes.
My hand was raised so I could answer the question. Sorry. Thank you. Yes, those conversations have taken place. Concerns in regards to change.
Okay, thank you for those clarifications.
And am I freezing? I'm so sorry.
All right, I think
Councilmember Stiles is breaking up for me.
Chair.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. The next person that I had that I believe I saw online was Councilmember Cash.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I kind of had the same questions that Councilmember Bradford asked. I guess I am concerned that we have barely made this previous change and haven't gauged any data from it. I mean, I want to, help neighbors be free of annoying noises, but at the same time, I don't want to limit workers' hours too much. And one of the things is if we limit the daytime hours too much, then the construction will, go on for more days or more weeks or months. I know that I had a project in my district off of 21st, and they just wanted it done. They weren't interested in just limiting the hours. They wanted it done so that they didn't have to deal with it anymore, not just an hour less. That was one or two people that felt that way. So I guess that's my question: is why? Same question, or rather than a question, I guess it's a concern that I almost wish that we had waited a little bit and see how Councilmember Benedict's bill that passed into law plays out. I know that, and actually, if I could ask Councilmember Stiles if she could go into a little more detail about the conversations that she referenced that have taken place, that would be helpful.
This is Vice Chair Withers. Hannah, before we kind of have a lot of detailed discussion on things that are not planning and zoning related specifically on this bill, would you be able to confirm, has this bill also been referred to the Codes Committee?
I can confirm it has.
It has. That's what I'm, just as a suggestion, in order to keep moving through our agenda for planning and zoning items, is I'm wondering if some of those kind of code-specific questions could be taken up in the Codes Committee, and we could focus our discussion today on more the planning and zoning side.
That's fair enough. I'll withdraw my question. I hope one of the sponsors will be able to make it to the Codes Committee tomorrow at 4:15, and I'll ask my question again then.
Okay, thank you. I think that next I had seen Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think echoing the concerns of Council Members Bradford and Cash, we just passed this. We had enough community, industry, and council discussion that it earned enough support to pass. And I think coming back through, unless there was a dire concern that got overlooked or new data that was particularly persuasive, I can't support this. I know we're talking about the planning, zoning, and historical implications here, but in this committee, I'm not going to be able to recommend approval next.
Okay, thank you. And actually, we're still on the substitute, if I'm not mistaken. So just want to.
Oh yeah, that's right. I'm sorry, I forgot about that. I'm comfortable with the amendment, so that's fine.
Got it. I think the next person that I saw was Councilmember Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. It's possible I should be speaking on the bill rather than the substitute, but I think it's relevant to all of those. I agree with my other council members that it might be helpful to get a little bit more data on this before we begin to make changes. And I also just want to mention that I have had some conversations with the contractors groups about noise issues after dealing with the prolonged noise that Councilmember Cash was referring to, with the hopes of coming back later with a bill that would deal specifically with noise mitigation for projects that extend beyond some period of time. So that may be another way to provide relief for this in combination with the bill that we just passed. So I just throw that out there for information. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I believe the next person that I saw was Councilmember Hager, and I also see Councilmember Benedict, and I'll come to you next, if that's okay. But Councilmember Hager, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. One question I want to ask, what is the definition of construction? Like, I've got the rock quarry that is adjacent to residential property. Is this bill, is it applicable to it also or not? And that might be a John Cooper question.
Would Attorney Cooper be able to help us?
Yes, I'm here. It would not apply to quarry activity. That's considered commercial activity, and there's a separate commercial noise ordinance applicable to that. This is just for actually building stuff.
Okay. Well, let me ask another question then. If I'm doing construction work at my house myself, because, you know, I used to be a carpenter's helper, I can do a lot of things around my house. Does that apply to me too or not? As a homeowner?
I would have to look at the specific language of the bill. I don't think there's a distinction between contractors and others who are doing the work. But I'll have to look, and I'll get back with you.
If I could answer, Vice Chair.
Please go ahead.
I think it would apply if you remember, this is not about construction activity, it's about construction noise. So, Councilman Hager, I think if you were doing stuff around your house and it was below 70 decibels, you would be fine. If you are making noise that impacts the neighbors, it would apply.
Okay, that's what I want to understand because, you know, some people work later on at night on their own houses. That's the reason I was asking that. Thanks.
Right. Thank you. I'll go to Councilmember Benedict next. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. One piece of clarification on that, and then I'll get to my main point. But this is really for heavy equipment, jackhammering, bulldozing, backhoes, roofing to some degree, with the hammering that goes on with roofing. But that's when you look at 70 decibels, that's the type of activity that we're talking about. So most frequently in residential neighborhoods, that is being done by someone from the trades industry. Now, I do want to there's a lot of questions, and when I saw this bill come up, I too, based on the bill that I sponsored and that we had support that passed unanimously, well, I believe it was, I should rephrase that passed in December. The sponsor of this bill did have a friendly amendment. However, we were not able to come to an agreement on that, and so that's where this bill has come from. And I actually, if I recall correctly, the bill was not ever, the substitute or the amendment that was brought by Councilwoman Lee was not actually brought to committee. The sponsor wasn't present, and then on the council floor, it also did not get moved. So I believe that that's the reasoning why this is being looked at again, is because they were hoping to get it looked at then. I know that there was not industry support for it, so I didn't. So we went ahead and proceeded, and that's how we got where we are now. 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday. All of the months except for June, July, and August was something that would take care of keeping construction on track in our city, which we need to do, as well as protecting worker safety. And most importantly, it does improve our neighborhoods so that we can enjoy quality of life. So just a little background, and I hope that that's helpful. Thank you.
Okay. If I could ask folks, if you've already spoken and you don't want to speak again, if you could lower your hands. And then, are there any hands remaining that I haven't seen yet? Because I'm a little blinded by the sunlight here. Councilmember Hager, did you have anything else you wanted to add? No. Okay. Is there a motion? I mean, we're sort of on the substitute. We've moved the substitute. Is there a motion that someone would like to bring from the committee on the substitute? And then, depending on what happens with that, we can see what would happen to the bill as substituted. Is there a motion on the substitute?
This is Councilman Cash. I move the substitute.
Second, Councilwoman Stiles.
Okay, thank you. So we are moving the substitute. We have a second. We'll try this by voice vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. I have heard none. I'm looking to see if I have any hands raised off of my glare, off of my screen from the sun that came out. All right. Hannah, would you mind running through that list of names that voted in favor of the substitute, please?
Council members Allen, Benedict, Bradford, Cash, Evans, Gamble, Hager, O'Connell, Parker, Rutherford, Stiles, Toombs, Van Rees, Welch, Withers. 15 in favor, 0 against.
Fantastic. Thank you. Now, is there a motion on the bill as substituted?
Move the bill as substituted.
Second.
Great. Any discussion?
Can I ask a question? Yeah, this is Councilman Cash. If I could just ask a question. This is second reading, right?
Yes. That is correct. Anything else, Councilmember Cash?
No, that's all.
Great. I see Councilmember Benedict has her hand raised.
Thank you, Vice Chair. So I just wanted to confirm with the committee, just to make sure I was clear, that the compromise that I was able to reach between neighborhoods and industry on the bill that passed in December was really where I think that we can go. And I agree with the comments earlier in this committee that, I think we need to see where that lands and how that works for our city, for our residents, and for our construction industry, so that we can move forward. And then if we need to revisit this to see if 8 to 7 days a week is the right solution, I'm not sure. But at this point, I do think that we have a clear path, and therefore I will not be supporting this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Benedict. Any other hands or discussion on this one? I know we have a few other items to get through. Just going to give it a second. So we've moved the bill on, we've moved the bill as amended. Is there any sort of a motion for,
Vice Chair?
ready for an up-down vote or a deferral or anything like that? Yes, go ahead.
Yes, my hand is raised. I'm not sure. Is it not showing on your end?
It is not showing on my end, and I apologize for that. That's why I appreciate you calling out. Go ahead.
That is quite all right. I am always the queen of tech issues. So, all due respect, Council Member Benedict, and I appreciate all the work that you did. The speak for constituents with all of the growth that we're seeing, moving the time so that it's starting at 8 and so it's ending at 8 p.m. is a better fit. And perhaps it is different in other districts, but it does allow for the work to still continue. You still have 12 hours a day to work where it might have been, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. before. You're still getting 12 hours in. And work can begin that doesn't make noise on the site at that time or even beforehand. So I think that while it does seem that we're putting something up very quickly after yours, this would be a good bill to support. And it gives a little bit more time for disruption, the avoidance of disruption, I should say, in daily lives to start at 8 and make that uniform just across the board. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Stiles. Are there any other comments? We have the only motion before us right now is the bill as substituted. If anyone has a different motion, please let me know. I don't see one. So having said that, we will do, Hannah, it probably makes sense for this one based on the commentary that we've had to do a roll call vote, a traditional roll call vote. I know that takes a little while, but I think it's justified this time.
Absolutely.
For the bill as substituted.
Councilmember Allen?
No.
Benedict?
No.
Bradford?
No.
Cash?
I'm going to abstain.
Evans?
No.
Gamble?
Abstain.
Hager?
No.
Paul? Murphy? O'Connell?
No.
Parker?
No.
Rutherford?
No.
Stiles?
Yes.
Toombs?
Aye.
Van Rees?
No.
Welch?
No.
Withers?
I'm going to vote no on this one. Thank you.
Two in favor, 11 against, 2 abstentions.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. This was a good discussion, and I'm sure we'll have more discussion in the Codes Committee, Councilmember Cash, tomorrow. The next item that I have on my list that we need to go through is, just make sure I'm not overlooking anything, is Councilmember Rutherford. We've got your bill on third reading. That is Bill BL 2020-517. Changes 44.44 acres from AR to A to SP zoning for properties located at 5866 Pettus Road and Pettus Road Unnumbered, north of Sundown Drive, to permit 136 detached single-family and attached single-family units. And you do have an amendment on that. Would you like to go ahead and move the amendment?
Yes, please, Mr. Chair. That is my motion.
Okay, I'll second that motion for the amendment. And then would you or Hannah quickly describe for us what the amendment does?
Basically, the amendment is bringing clarification or more clarification to the SB and is adding in some additional pieces that were part of the ongoing discussion that led to the deferrals that we've had between the developer and the community. So more of what it's reflective more of the community input. So it's a little greater detail in the SB is essentially what's accomplished here.
Fantastic. Is there any other questions or discussions on the amendment? I don't believe I see anybody. So we will do a voice vote on the amendments, if that's okay. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Hearing none. Hannah, would you mind reading off the list of those in favor of the amendment?
Voting in favor, Allen, Benedict, Bradford, Cash, Evans, Gamble, Hager, O'Connell, Parker, Rutherford, Stiles, Toombs, Van Reese, Welch, Withers. 15 in favor, 0 against.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Rutherford, would you now like to move your bill as amended?
Motion on the bill.
Thank you so much.
As amended.
Thank you. I will second that. Any discussion on the bill as amended? So I don't believe that I see any, so I will call for a voice vote. All in favor of the bill as amended, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. I suppose for due process, I should ask for any abstentions. All right, Hannah, if you would read off the list of those who voted in favor of the bill as amended.
Voting in favor, Councilmembers Allen, Benedict, Bradford, Cash, Evans, Gamble, Hager, O'Connell, Parker, Rutherford, Stiles, Toombs, Van Reese, Welch, Withers. 15 in favor, 0 against.
Fantastic, thank you. I am now going through my correspondence, and I do see that item number 11, which is the next item on our agenda, is Bill BL 2025-29 by Councilmember Pulley, which changes 0.13 acres from SCR to SP zoning for a portion of property located at 4004 Hillsborough Pike to permit an animal boarding facility, dog kennel, and all uses permitted in SCR zoning. My understanding is that the request from the sponsor is to defer this one meeting. So I will
move to defer one meeting.
Seconded.
All right, thank you. So unless there's any discussion, I will call for all in favor of a one meeting deferral. Please say aye.
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 Thank you. And any against? Any abstentions? Don't believe so. All right. Hannah, do your thing, please.
Voting in favor, Councilmembers Allen, Benedict, Bradford, Cash, Evans, Gamble, Hager, O'Connell, Parker, Rutherford, Stiles, Toombs, Van Reese, Welch, Withers. 15 in favor, 0 against.
Thank you so much. All right, this brings us to what I believe is our last item on our agenda for today, which is item 12. This is Bill BL 2021-597 as amended. The sponsors are District 5 Councilmember Parker and several others. And this approves a participation agreement between Metro Public Works and Monroe Infrastructure LLC for the construction of public infrastructure in Phase 1A of River North. And Councilmember Parker, I believe you have an amendment. Would you like to move that amendment?
Yes, Vice Chair, I'd like to move the amendment.
Okay, great. Thank you. I will second that. So we have the amendment before us. Could you or staff provide a brief description of the amendment, please?
Sure, I'll be happy to. So this amendment is the last in your amendments packet. It does two things in sort of going over the proposed street designs with Public Works and other stakeholders. We determined that initially in this plan for River North Boulevard, the inside travel lane was 12 foot wide in each direction. We ended up agreeing that that was probably excessive, and we were able to reduce that down to 10 foot, which is in line with NACTO standards. And so I really want to thank staff, particularly Devin Doyle with Public Works, for kind of getting all the stakeholders in the room together and helping us come up with this rearrangement, which I think is going to make for a much more walkable, safe arrangement here at the River North site. And the second thing it does is here on Marine Drive, if you look at the very last page in your amendments packet, initially the proposal was to have the bike lane and the pedestrian lane, pedestrian zone combined. So there would have been no delineation between the bike lane and the pedestrian area. And again, as the stakeholders all convened, we sort of agreed that it would be better to put that landscape buffer between the bike lane and the pedestrian zone. So again, thanks to staff and to all the stakeholders who came together to kind of come up with this amendment. And I'm happy to answer any questions, but I'll move approval of the amendment.
Second.
Fantastic. Is there any discussion or questions from members of the Planning, Zoning, and Historical Committee on this? I believe this will also go before Public Works Committee. Is that correct, Councilmember Parker?
That is correct, and it's going back to budget as well.
Budget as well. Okay, great. So from the Planning and Zoning side, do we have any questions on this item?
Mr. Chair, this is Councilmember O'Connell. I wanted to commend Councilmember Parker for his attention to detail here. We are clearly still coming up short when it comes to some of our complete street designs and implementation. I mean, this is a tough part of how planning intersects with public works. And I think it also speaks to some of the issues I hope would be resolved if and when we introduce a full, coordinated, comprehensive Department of Transportation to the city. But at this moment, council members who want thorough and useful complete streets implementations in their districts are still having to do a lot of work with departments to ensure that that comes to fruition. And my hope is that we will continue to see attention to detail that adheres to NACDO guidelines, adheres to general deployment that offers an appropriate amount of safety and equity to all users of our public rights of way. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that commentary, Councilmember O'Connell. Scanning through to see if there are any other hands raised with any questions or comments for the Planning, Zoning, and Historical Committee. Got 7 screens up here, so let me cycle through. Don't believe that I do from this committee. So we have a motion to approve the amendment before us. I believe that we are ready to vote. So if I can call for a voice vote of all in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Fantastic. So Hannah, would you mind reading the list of the committee members who have voted in favor of the amendment?
Voting in favor, council members Allen, Benedict, Bradford, Cash, Evans, Gamble, Hager, O'Connell, Parker, Rutherford, Stiles, Toombs, Van Reese, Welch, Withers. 15 in favor, 0 against.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Councilmember Parker, would you like to move your bill as amended, or do you have a different motion?
Yes, Vice Chair, I'd like to move the bill as amended.
Second.
Great. Just going to check to see if there's any discussion or hands on the bill as amended. Don't believe that I see any. So, Councilmember Cash, did you have an item to add?
I just have a question. So I understand that this part of what we're deciding is about infrastructure, streets, and whatnot. And I guess and I know that there are different phases, and I guess I'm just wondering if, since this is such a big project, if there are future like opportunities for community benefit agreements on land use, or if that's already been decided at an earlier point. Now we're just moving forward with the infrastructure and public works type stuff. Did that question make sense?
It does. Councilmember Parker, would you like to address that question, or should someone from the administration or other staff answer it?
I mean, I'm happy to speak a little bit to it if the administration or staff would like to follow up. So this area, almost all of the River North area is already entitled for pretty intense development. So in terms of land use, that is already, that box is already ticked. There is a UDO in this area, an urban design overlay, that is very detailed and covers a lot of elements of development. It does not really speak to the sort of granular stuff about like street arrangements and whatnot. So I think that we'll continue to want to look at that as this project moves forward. But as for, community benefits and whatnot, I mean, again, the land is already entitled. I'm not sure to what extent those could be pursued as a condition of any future participation agreements. But the land use is already locked in for most of this area. And I don't know if the administration has a follow-up or anything on that.
Does anyone from the mayor's office or public works or other departments have anything to add to the discussion?
Chair Withers, this is Mike Jamison. Can you hear me?
I can, and please go ahead.
Thank you so much. In addition to what Councilman Parker noted, there's some also generic community benefits that the administration pressed for over the course of the past year and several months. You'll notice there's a total of 9.5 acres of property that's being provided by the developer for purposes of open space, green space, and the roads infrastructure. The developer, of course, is paying any cost overruns in excess of what was agreed to within the capital spending plan. And of course, that figure that is being provided by Metro has been reduced by a third to 13.8. So in a sense, those are community benefits that are coming from the development team. That team is also committed to minority contractor and represented labor union participation in their infrastructure development as well. So without a specified community benefits agreement or a formalized agreement, I think you'll note some pretty dramatic community benefits that are nevertheless materializing through the participation agreement.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Mr.
This is Councilman Cash.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just thank you. I know some of this goes back a few years, and we're kind of coming to a new phase of it, or a new phase of oversight or approval of it. And I just wanted to make sure I understood where we were and outside of just the public work. So I appreciate both Councilmember Parker and Mr. Jameson providing that information. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Councilmember Cash. Are there any other questions or discussion on this item, on the bill as amended, before we bring it to a full vote? Trying to make sure. Mike Jameson, did you have anything else that you wanted to add, or your hand is still raised? Oh, thank you. I believe that is it for discussion. This has been great. I know we'll still have opportunities for further questions in other committees, but I believe that we're ready for a vote at this time on the bill as amended. So I will call for a voice vote of this bill as amended. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? Hearing none. Hannah, would you mind reading off the names of those who have voted in favor?
Voting in favor, Councilmembers Allen, Benedict, Bradford, Cash, Evans, Gamble, Hager, O'Connell, Parker, Rutherford, Stiles, Toombs, Van Rees, Welch, Withers. 15 in favor, 0 against.
Great. Thank you so much. Is there any other business before this committee that any members would like to raise before we cede our WebEx time to the Budget and Finance Committee?
Good job running the meeting.
Well, thank you so much. All right. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the Planning, Zoning, and Historic Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Right. Thank you. So I guess that concludes it for us, and I look forward to discussion in Budget and Finance up next. Thank you so much, everyone.
All right, I will start the 10-second countdown for the Budget and Finance Committee meeting. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2,